You're not gonna go there, are you?
Oh, yes, I am. Hey, it's Karel, and welcome to episode 3.02 of Karel Life in Segments. You all know I love two things, cannabis and my producer-director, Brandon Riley Miller. So when I can talk about both of those things, honey, hallelujah. Well, Brandon has been busy in between season 2 and season 3 of Karel Life in Segments. Obviously, I pay him too well if he can just run off. But he did his own TV series. Now, it's set in Big Bear, California, where my husband Andrew grew up, my late husband Andy, and it's about cannabis, which is taking over America and cannabis culture. Well, a lot of you think that cannabis is just a done deal and everybody accepts it and everybody's family accepts it and it's all fine. No, that's not the way it is. So let's check in with Brandon Riley Miller and the cast of Hi, the series. Hey, welcome back to Life in Segments. I, of course, am Karel, and this is Cannabis Corner. So, it's really cool now about the cannabis and the cannabis industry as it qualifies in California for the ballot. If you're watching this later in 2016, we're about to legalize here in the state. It was actually recommended by several key Obama administration officials that states that do not have legal cannabis are actually missing out on needed revenues, that it has now been proven that cannabis is the opiate for the masses. And if Prince had taken more of it and less of fentanyl, he'd be making a soundtrack to my show right now. So, that's the way that is. Oh, and you know those people that toured with him that couldn't do drugs and couldn't do alcohol? They are so pissed right now. He's back there high on fentanyl and they can't even have a shot of whiskey. Whatever. So much for being Jehovah's Witness. Now, right out the door when pain comes in, it's like, God who? But that is a very valid argument for cannabis. Elizabeth Warren herself said that the opiate problem in America, and you know it's on our show, it's permeated a lot of our show because of me. Elizabeth Warren has said the opiate problem in America could be reduced by 70% if we allowed legal cannabis, that people would turn to it for pain management. It's why I do Cannabis Corner. There's nothing to be afraid of. But this time we're going to the arts. I was just showing them a magazine. There's magazines springing up about cannabis, real like magazines. There's TV shows, there's movies, there's talk shows. The cannabis industry is one of the greenest in America. And now filmmakers and storytellers are not afraid to integrate it into stories. It used to be taboo. It was like reefer madness. If you had pot in it, you had to have dancing people going crazy, which is usually what happens after speed. But there's a new series out, new to us. You might have already seen it if this is airing a year from now. But it's called Hi, the series. And what's made me so happy that I get to cover it is that my production partner, who you never see, the person that's always behind the camera for Karel Life in Segments, who there wouldn't be a Karel Life in Segments if it weren't for Brandon Riley Miller right here and the other two dweebs we have back here, our crew, our cast, our God bless them, hard workers. And we did the whole Judy Garland thing. Let's just go to the barn and put on a show. And Brandon decided that he was going to write and produce a series and that he was just going to get it done, because that's what you do in Hollywood nowadays. You do not wait for a studio. You find a way to get it done, and then you make the money. And it's those that do that that make the most money, because studios are now a-holes. They're like pizza delivery people. They want you to bring them something. They don't want to have to create it. And then, of course, when it's a hit, they want to take all the credit. But that's how Hollywood is, and so that's what they're doing it. So Brandon Riley Miller is the writer and director of Hi, the series. It's at hitheseries.com. And we're going to let everyone tell us what it's all about and why it's on Cannabis Corner. But Brandon, if you're going to write a first series, why make the series have a substance in it that still might be deemed controversial by some people? You know, the pilot, the first scene, wake and bake, you know, and it's so there might be people at home with their kids going, "Don't watch it."
Yeah.
So you felt connected. Why?
I felt, well, you know,
No, I don't. Why?
I definitely smoke weed, and I am an active participant.
Is that a horrible admission? Because you know me, I'll light up anywhere.
Yeah.
Is it hard to say, oh, I'm on camera, and yes, I definitely smoke weed?
Well, I think that, I mean, people look at it differently. Some people look at it like a drug.
It is a drug.
Well, some people look at it like an illicit drug like heroin, class 1, and I just...
They're called Republicans.
And I wanted to show sort of the normalcy of...
Right.
Like, it isn't like, you know...
In High, the series, and first let's start talk about the plot, because that is one of the things, it is not a plot element, really. It's really just a part, like every stoner, it's a part of their life. It's just, you know, you wake up, I have a bong hit every morning so I don't puke. And that's the truth. I don't take a Prevacid or a Prilosec because pot does the same thing. So I wake up every morning, I go out and I have a bong hit. And it's just as natural and normal to me as, you know, peeing in the mornings. And so you made it that way in the series. You made it very normal for this guy to just have pot in his life.
Well, I wanted to make sure we, you know, for the audience that are participants in marijuana culture, they could really identify with this character, because it is not like...
Don't y'all hate... We have the cast here, by the way. Let me even have one on Skype. He's over here. He's
Hi, Steve.
very, very, you know, exclusive. He couldn't fly in, so we got him on the Skype. He does have an iPad, luckily.
My arms are just too tired.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Steve over there. And Steve, introduce yourself for us.
My name's Steve Gehagen,
Hello, Steve.
and I play Bill Trent.
You do. You're dad. And then here we have
Daniel.
Daniel. Do you have a last name, Daniel?
Favela Gary. I'm a Blaxican.
A Blaxican. You're a Mexican black person?
I am.
Oh, don't go to a Trump rally. Boy.
Stay away.
Yeah, stay away. Come on, Missy E. Come on. Oh, let her out, honey. She's as much of the show as anybody. Okay, and here we have...
I am Beth Wheat, and I play Kathy Trent.
Hi, Beth. She likes women, so that's...
I love
good. And here we have...
I'm Brad Sutherland, and I play Alexander Trent.
And he's working on a he hive. It's the sequel to a man bun. They grow into a he hive. And then over here we have...
Dustin Murphy, and I helped a lot with the production, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and had one little tiny scene where I played Don.
It's not the size of the scene, but the size of the actor playing it. That's really what I say. Oh, that was in porn. I'm sorry. That's a whole different thing. Let's talk about the story. Explain the story arc. What is High, the series?
Basically, sort of...
Give me the Hulu paragraph that appears under the Netflix paragraph, you know.
A socially disconnected teenager dabbles in marijuana, and unbeknownst to his sheriff, brother, and dad. And we have a situation that is sort of volatile, and that's where High, the series starts.
Born out of a small town where these sort of things would happen.
Absolutely.
Now, let's go to the cast. When he approached you to do the series, and he's like, and it's going to be all about stoners, and we're going to deal drugs, and it's going to be fabulous. How do we feel about that? Let's start with Dad down there in the end. Oh, Steve, we're talking to you, honey. Snap out of it. For the love of God, will you get off the porn site and come back to us?
I'm sorry, I'm on my computer. What do you think?
What are you, a televangelist?
The whole High thing started for me in 2009 because the original film, the pilot episode, was actually made that long ago as a standalone film, and I knew Brandon from when he was a kid. And a lot of the people that were involved, and we did it then. So when he came up with the idea for the series, it just was a perfect thing in my head.
Do you think it would have worked as a series in 2009, given where the country was with cannabis, as opposed to now, 7 years later?
No, I don't think so. I think television has gone a long way.
Yeah.
Over those years.
Oh yeah. With everything, with drugs, with gays, with all of it, women in prison, whatever. No, really though. I mean, being queer on TV is no longer an oddity. It used to be, and now there's, with Modern Family and being old, It's just not a thing anymore. Same-sex relationships are all over Scandal and everything else. And pot usage, and pot usage in particular has gone up on network television. It was never allowed. The censors wouldn't let it through. And now it's allowed. So.
The interesting thing about high is not so much the pot use, as the pot use is, as you say, just sort of an everyday thing.
Right.
But the conflict happens with some people's reactions to that.
Well, don't you find that's always true that, for instance, I'm tattooed, I'm head to toe, I'm practically lesbian. But back in the day, like I had a friend, my tattoo artist, she went to buy a car and her tattoos were exposed and they actually told her to get off the lot. They said you should probably go to another place because if you were tattooed, it meant something about you. And back in the day, if you smoked pot, it meant something about you. There was an immediate judgment made. And now I think people realize that a whole cross spectrum of people use cannabis and you can't really make a judgment about someone just based on cannabis use. Do we agree?
Yeah, I think that's...
I would hope so.
Well, I think...
Well, how many here use it, by the way? Everyone knows, when you watch my show, y'all know I use it. I use it on air. Steve, do you use it?
I've been smoking since 1967.
And good for you, the paraquat years. Screw them, we'll do it anyway. Spray it all you want. And what about you?
I do not know.
You do not, okay. And what about you?
I do not.
Have you ever?
I have.
You have. In college. Everyone does everything in college. Yes.
Can't pass.
Probably had a woman then too. Have you ever?
No.
Never. What about you?
I grew up in Texas, so I smoked weed when I was 13, and I don't know if you could really consider it weed because it was from Texas.
I lived in Harker Heights and Killeen for years.
Oh, really?
And Waco and Temple.
Oh, Waco.
I
That's
know.
a nice town.
It's lovely. Whenever anyone goes crazy in Texas, I always know why, because they're in Texas. I know you have. Just an hour ago. What about you?
I do not.
You do not. As actors, it's odd, because in 2009, I don't think there were web series, or they were just starting. They really hadn't gotten hold. Actors weren't taking roles on web series. They weren't taking them seriously, and all of that. As actors, as working actors now, and we'll start and come down, did you have any hesitation about a web series or a series that maybe didn't have distribution up front, or did that matter?
You certainly, Steve?
He doesn't know where he is in the lineup.
Yeah, it's fine. He's back at the porn site. We'll go to you. We'll go.
No worries.
My commitment was to Brandon.
Right.
I had no.
So you didn't care about the medium? Yeah. Okay. Could have been YouTube. Who cares? Okay.
Yeah, likewise for myself. It was just the opportunity to work with Brandon. Brandon is a very talented guy, so any opportunity I get to work with Brandon, I'll jump at it. Doesn't matter what the medium is.
But as an actor nowadays, when something comes in, do you consider it's like, oh, it's for the web, or does that matter? Does it even matter anymore?
It doesn't even matter anymore. It's all about, everybody is all about views and who's seeing what. So web series is just as popular and just as important as a television series.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you? Because
For good or bad.
yeah, for good or bad. Yeah.
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 So the connection is Brandon as well, and I've known him since he was a kid. But there was one thing that cracked me up about this when Brandon approached me, which was Steve and I used to do a lot of theater together, and we did things like The Music Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so his thought that it would just be
We can do a quick number if you like. I know the entire score. I'm
Oh,
gay.
awesome.
I mean, I'm gay. It's a musical. Hello.
But the notion that we could be this, this dysfunctional, tragic family that behind the scenes we're actually Harold and Marion. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, because in this series, y'all are f***ed up. I mean, I was like, well, not even my childhood was that bad. But I'd be high too. It's like, and what about you? You are pretty much of the era where this is no big deal, a web series, because you've grown up with the web.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for me, it wasn't even mentioned as a web series when Brandon pitched the idea to me. I remember very specifically, I was sad, depressed. I wasn't working on anything, and
Oh, you're an artist.
I'm glad we can laugh about it instead of cry.
Oh, I was told I was too ugly for my own show today by an agent. I love Life in Segments. if we had a different host, but it's my life in segments. It's like, whatever. So yeah, I get the whole sad, lonely, depressed, not working on anything.
Yeah, so it was basically just, I mean, we worked on the original film in 2009 when we were both graduating from Chapman University, and it was probably the most fulfilling thing that I've done artistically in my life. So just the fact that Brandon was like interested in like, you know, expanding it into anything in any capacity, I was down for it.
Now, you worked a lot of behind the scenes on production. I want to ask you one thing. How has production changed? You know, when we went to Europe with our show, you would thought we'd brought the Holy Grail with us, and they were like parting the seas, because they're like, you do all of that with this? And, you know, he was like a bronze god over there at all the camera people. They were like at his feet, like, oh, holy Brandon, you know, how do I make this gadget of yours? I'm sitting there in sequins and they're talking to him. I'm like, what? Hey, over here. Which is fine. But, you know, production. How, you know, people out there at South by Southwest, there was a gentleman who made a comment that if you're a filmmaker or if you're an artist, why aren't you making a movie every single weekend? Because creators create, and you should just be creating. You can shoot on iPads, you can shoot. So let's talk about production. How down and dirty was this, and how did you get it to look, you know, and this goes to you as well, how did you not get it to look that way?
Well, me and Brandon both come from the same school of guerrilla filmmaking. It's kind of a millennial way of filmmaking, really.
No, it truly is.
You know, where it's the
Jane Fonda at 82 said on Jimmy Kimmel that with Grace and Frankie, she's 82. She's been Jane Fonda since she was, well, born, because it was to Henry Fonda. Yeah. So, and she was like, I'm learning every day because everything on the set is completely brand new. She's like, it's all just brand new, you know, to her at 82 years old. So it really is a millennial way of filmmaking.
Right, and it's very self-sufficient. You need a lot less people on set. I mean, if you look at the way that Hollywood's producing films,
right.
In my opinion, one of the things that makes them getting increasingly less interesting is because there's so much process that it doesn't allow a lot of room for stuff just to happen. And if you look at a lot of the indie stuff, especially with this series, there's all these delightful little moments that I think because it's a very intimate crew with only a couple people and only
Your
a couple
series
actors.
feels like Transparent. I don't know if have you seen Transparent?
I haven't seen it yet.
Do you love you have to see it.
It's on my list.
And it had the production feel to me. Transparent feels very organic. It feels like you're there. You're just in their kitchen, you know, you're sort of just there. Yeah, it's very personal. And this felt very personal. You know, I was blown away by some of your film work. I'm just like, oh my God, Brandon. I do the pull back through the screen. I'm like, go, girl, go. So it's like, I'm so glad he works with me.
Well, we got to, I mean, the pilot we shot was very guerrilla, and we went super handheld, and it was very like just run and gun, shot it in 2 weekends, and like this one we were able to take a feature film's pace with the scenes. Like some days we just work on one scene, one big, huge scene, and we'd you know, technology, the fact that we're shooting on Canons now, like these you know, DSLRs, they're so lightweight and unobtrusive that you can be making a huge production with 3 people and nobody's the wiser. And
Parents,
just kind of,
parents sit down and watch High with their teenagers. What do you want? What conversation do you want them to have afterwards?
I think it just maybe an acknowledgement of like, because this exists no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what age. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe some countries it's
well, you know, it's funny.
ban, but like,
I'm not thinking of the pot when he says that. I'm thinking of the dysfunction that exists.
The
That right. If you peel back any onion, you know, you're going to. There's no perfect childhood. There's no perfect relationship. It's a myth. It's an ideal that we'll never achieve. It's unobtainable. In fact, the only normalcy is dysfunction. That is the normal. I think all of us here can attest in all relationships that we've had, parents, friends, family, whatever it might be, even relationship with drugs, you know, at some point every relationship is dysfunctional. And this notion that our neighbors are different or that across the way in that household they don't have the problems that we have, it's just not true. And so I think when I think of high, I think of the dysfunction. I don't necessarily think of the drugs.
I was thinking of isolation
Yeah.
because everybody is so siloed. Nobody really connects. You have a tiny connection and you break it off.
Yeah, and I think my character specifically, I dwell on how lonely and isolated I am, but looking at it from an audience perspective, from an audience perspective, looking at it the first time I saw it, Alex has the most people in his corner and supporting him.
Right.
Yeah.
And Steve in particular is intensely isolated and alone for the whole, basically the whole thing.
Yeah.
For season 1 at least. So I think that's an extremely important point of view and take on it.
Well, isolation has been a theme of my radio show. That, I think one of the things in America right now is so many people are thinking of just themselves and what they need and what they want, that there is this no collective thinking any longer, the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the one, sort of thing. And that's why we've gotten this hatred, this vitriol, this division, racism, homophobia, misogyny is back. Now they're picking on people for where they pee. And, people in dresses that molest children are clergy, not transgendered. So, we have all of this ridiculousness going on. But on the converse of that, we are making strides in the pot industry, and we really are. And as we can sit here and have a series that is really about family, isolation, dysfunction, and have people move past the drug usage and just sort of treat it as, so he gets higher, so he deals drugs, or so whatever, we all have encountered that, and concentrate more on the dysfunction. I think that's a societal shift. That's a shift. And that shift happens through art. That's how shifts happen. You see it on the screen, it becomes normal. It's like Republicans. Tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. Well, show something on camera long enough as normal, and it becomes more normal. Steve, would you agree? Because you and I, probably the same age or somewhere around there, and have seen this genesis of all of this. Would you not agree that through the normalcy of it, you're able to focus more in high on the dysfunction and isolation and not really on the drug usage?
Yeah, that was sort of what I was trying to comment on at the beginning, is that the conflict arises not from the drug use, but from some of the characters' reactions to it, and the fact that they are all isolated from each other.
Right.
And that's where, that's where the real sore festers.
Right.
And a lot of times, we can fluff things up by blaming it on things like drug use.
Right. It's so easy to do. It's like nowadays that whenever anyone is like in Iraq or whatever. Let's even take Prince. It's going to be so easy. Or Michael Jackson. It's so easy to blame the doctor and say that it was propofol. Or it's so easy to blame the fentanyl. Prince died of chronic pain, which is a huge problem in America that we're not addressing. Michael Jackson died because he could not sleep. He ever since the burn incident, he could not sleep a full night, and he would do anything, including tranquilize himself, to get to sleep. We will blame something, and that's not even the issue or not the core of the problem. It's like, no, here was the core of this problem. And in high, you're right. It's not that the guy does drugs. That's the least of his worries, actually. Before we go, now that you've seen it, it's done, it's over, it's out there. What did you take away from it?
I took away that it's really, at the core, it's about self-love and also self-responsibility, because it's very easy, like for Steve's character, he really delves in season 1 into alcoholism, and that becomes his boogeyman and also his comfort zone. And so very much you look forward to the progression of the stories to see that everybody comes into their own in the sense of, this was my responsibility, I need to fix it, I need to become more of myself to fix the whole. We're not actually isolated.
To your generation, are drugs our generation would say, Madonna found in car crash, marijuana found in car. Does that matter to you guys when you hear, does drug usage of someone matter to you guys as much as it used to matter to us?
Drug usage, no. It's what they're doing that matters.
Right, their actions.
Their actions.
I always say that. Make the act, like the same with cannabis or any drug. Make them all legal, but make the actions illegal. If you get high on heroin and you go driving, that's illegal.
That should be.
But not the being high on the heroin, but getting behind the wheel of the car.
Right. The drugs are are part of everyday life.
Right.
So
It's like I
that
told
has-
you when I told Shaka Khan. People who can't handle their drugs piss me off. Handle your drugs.
Absolutely.
Don't do that. Or don't do them.
Right.
CDC just came out with a report. Americans' life expectancy is going backwards. The three major causes: drug overdoses, legal drug overdoses, alcoholism, number 2, gun deaths, number 3. As we sit here with UCLA just yesterday. So, what did you take away from the series?
I felt that it was highly relatable for everybody, even though some of the situations may be extreme, that it is probably a treatise on the American family today and the extent of isolation and kind of a self-centeredness that doesn't, it makes people treat symptoms instead of looking
Right.
inward.
Band-Aids. Americans are great at
Yeah.
Band-Aids.
Yeah.
We see a gushing wound, we put a Band-Aid over it and say, there, it's fixed.
Yeah.
We put Band-Aids. What about you? Are you happier now?
I think for me, it's all about how you view yourself, and through my character, through Alex Trent, I think he's decided that he's this bad person, so he behaves badly.
Right.
He starts dealing drugs again because he thinks that's what everyone expects him to do anyway.
You do what you expect of yourself to do.
Yeah, but I think that it's interesting to look at his character in relation to Steve's character, because he might actually be worse than Alex. Alex might not be that bad of a
Right.
person, but he's just behaving and he's acting out. And
I never thought you were bad.
I knew from the get-go, couldn't be trusted. How fulfilling is it now that it's done? Or is it frightening that it's done because now the baby's on its own and has to go walk in the world? What is it now that it's accomplished and done?
I mean, Kurt and I, who came up with the story together, I was actually just sitting in a car with him, rambling about every idea that I have from here on out. So I'm just excited. I'm excited the ball's rolling. I'm excited that people can see it. And, you know, you work on something for 2.5 years, just chipping away at the marble. And when you can stand back and look at something and then actually see other people react to it,
Right.
especially the actors who, you know, we're shooting this over 30, almost like 20 weekends, 25 weekends.
What was that movie
You know,
where they
like-
did it in real time, where the kid grew up? What was that movie? Oh, you know,
Boyhood.
It's like Boyhood.
Like, so, like, you know,
You all aged on screen.
we did. I was scared about that.
you don't get that like emotional closure that you would get if you were performing something in order. So then when they get to see it and they get to see what I was envisioning
Right.
for what these moments were,
Right.
it's really satisfying.
Isn't that the weirdest thing about filmmaking?
Yes.
You know, not television and film, because stage, radio, it's all immediate.
Yeah.
But like we do. I've done music. You get in front of a green screen and you do stuff, and then you almost forget about it because it takes them a while. And then you watch it, and you're like, holy crap! You know, it's like it's really what they can do nowadays is really odd. And what did you take away from this, other than a sore back and?
Well, one of the things that's interesting is a theme about it is addiction, and I think everybody coming in is going to think, oh, it's
What do you think about addiction?
Marijuana.
Do you think it
addiction.
exists?
But it's, to my point, a lot of what people are addicted to isn't necessarily substances.
No.
that I think this thing shows.
I think
You have
people
who
are
are addicted to
people.
actions and feelings and violence and a whole other
Same
Drama.
response in our
behavioral.
brain.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
response if you eat a cupcake, you get an opiate
Right,
response.
people get addicted to drama. It's all they know. They don't know how to communicate with someone unless they're fighting.
Yeah, and what I hope it all encapsulates is this amalgamation of highs that aren't necessarily tied to, they're just life's highs.
Right.
Like even the highs of that you would get from a tragedy.
All right, you can see Hi the Series at hitheseries.com. The funny thing is with Hollywood, it could be at hitheseries.com for 6 months, and Hulu could come along, or Netflix, or Pivot, pick it up, and then all of a sudden in a year, you're seeing this huge marketing campaign for this brand new show that you've already seen. But that's Hollywood. So go see it now for free before you have to pay for it somewhere at hitheseries.com. I'd like to thank all of the filmmakers and all the cast and crew and our diva over there on Skype and everybody for coming in for Cannabis Corner. Of course, this is Life in Segments, and you can find it online at reallykarel.com. Karel's Life in Segments is completely funded by you. For more information on how you can be a part, the website is reallykarel, that's really Karel.com. Remember, we won't make it without you.